Welcome to another Morning Minute or so. Today is Thriving Thursday. So, how have you been implementing your plan for how to seek Christ this week? I hope it's been going well. Today, I was looking in First Chronicles in my quiet time, and I read about when David called for a census over the people of Israel. Now, Joab had warned him against it, and he continued with it and brought about guilt on the people, and they suffered a plague that struck down 70,000 men. Now, we could run off on the rabbit trail to try and consider why was this a sin, and we wouldn't really have a clear answer to that. We can say a few things for sure. To indulge the question for a minute, that in Exodus chapter 30, it outlines how to go about taking a census, and maybe David perhaps didn't follow those guidelines. Or we read in 21:5 that Joab gave the number of the census of all the people to David, and all Israel were 1,100,000 men who drew the sword, and Judah was 470,000 men who drew the sword. And so maybe it was about finding the pride of seeing strength in your men and your numbers instead of remembering that it was God who placed him in power on the throne over his people. Or it could be seeing as he designated so many for Israel and then specifically this many for Judah. Maybe it was concern of the separation of the tribe of Judah and their part of the kingdom away from the rest. But we really don't know. But what we do know is that the way that it was done, whether in the heart or in practice, brought about sin and incurred guilt upon Israel. And that guilt led to a plague, and that plague led David to repentance. And he called out to God, saying, Lord, first let the guilt be upon me and not upon these people. It was my sin. And God led him to the way to go about seeking the forgiveness and to stay the hand of God against them. And he led him to the threshing floor of a man named Ornan. Ornan, he was a Jebusite, and he was out threshing the wheat on the threshing floor. And David came to him and said, "Let me purchase this land. God's directed me to purchase this land so that I can erect an altar and sacrifice and ask for forgiveness, so that the plague will end." And Ornan responded, "But take it, and use this what I have here for the sacrifice." And David has, and this is what I want us to focus on. And David said, "Far be it from me to take from you to offer up to the Lord a sacrifice which cost me nothing." I'm one of my heroes is William Wilberforce, and he wrote a book addressed to the church in his day and his peers, calling them to a genuine Christianity. And in that, I'll just read a couple of quotes from here. He says, "No one expects to attain to the height of learning or arts or power or wealth or military glory without vigorous resolution and strenuous diligence and steady perseverance. Yet we expect to be Christians without labor, study, or inquiry." Elsewhere he says, "The diligent perusal of the Holy Scriptures would discover to us our past ignorance." Or in this place he says, "Christianity calls on us as we value our immortal souls, not merely to be not merely in general to be religious and moral, but specifically, especially to believe the doctrines and imbibe the principles and practices and the precepts of Christ." And lastly, I'll read here, "How great must be the guilt and how awful the punishment of voluntary ignorance." Do we expect to graduate from our high schools, go to the height of our careers, or in wealth, or in learning, or anything else, sports, to achieve it without vigorous attention and labor and study and pursuit? No, and yet we expect to be faithful Christians with just whatever slogan or word or phrase that we passively take in from our sermon on Sunday. And so I just encourage you to take a weekly plan and a tuned pursuit of Christ seriously. Not that we earn our salvation, but that we'll be faithful followers of Christ. All right. Pray that you'll be active in the sharing of your faith this week, and I will catch you again tomorrow on the next video.